Romance does not equal corn. Hello, my name is Lila. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. Today we're going to be talking about why Gen Z does not like spice in both books and TV shows. We're focusing on the books part today. I'm taking a gap year to read 100 books and focus on self-improvement, so follow along if you want to become a better version of yourself and also find some good taste in books. First of all, where is this coming from? Well, if you guys remember, earlier this year a show came out called The Idol, and it was absolutely disgusting. That was the shared opinion by the vast majority of people in my generation. So this is something I've been seeing a lot lately, where we are just collectively as a generation over it. We are constantly being spoon-fed all of this stuff again and again against our will for no reason at all. On Book Talk, the most fresh example in my mind is Colleen Hoover and the way that she turns romance into something that resembles corn on paper. And not just her, it's not just Colleen Hoover, it's a lot of other people. She's just the first person I can think of. Romance does not equal corn. Many authors these days can't seem to find the difference between that. Spicy books can be good. They can be great sometimes, but so can non-spicy books. You don't have to always have a lot of spice in order to make a romance book really, really good. And that is why I'm going to be revealing 2 books that I think did a phenomenal job of conveying exactly this, where they're romantic, there's great chemistry between the characters, and yet somehow the author didn't feel the need to add excessive spice, making it overkill. So up first, we have The Wrath and the Dawn. This is a terrible angle. Hold on. Both of the books I'm about to share with you have been popular-ish at one point, but they're being slept on by Book Talk right now, and I'm not too sure why. I didn't have enough time to get the physical copy of the book for this video, even though I normally like doing that, because I'm boycotting Indigo, and that's the biggest bookstore near me, and Amazon is going to take a while. If you like enemies to lovers romance, this book is for you. The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdiya. Also, the author's name is so beautiful. I love the name Renee. Takes place in ancient Persia, and it's basically a retelling of 1001 Arabian Nights. So 1001 Arabian Nights is a pretty dark story, apparently. This is a lighter, slightly different version of it. So whether you love this story or hate it, the one thing that I think most people will be able to appreciate about this book is the writing. Renee's writing style is so eloquent. Everything from her vocabulary to the structure of the entire book, it's beautiful. This was definitely giving me Jasmine vibes. She knows a lot about the culture, the depth of her knowledge, you can really see it. It's very extensive. I think the author herself is Korean American, so I was a bit curious as to how she knows so much about the culture. The Persian words are italicized, so it's pretty obvious, when there's a different word, but it gives you the chance to get to know a new culture and kind of immerse yourself in it within the book. So yeah, very beautiful, definitely quality writing, and I think it will present a challenge for you, but it's not too difficult to the point where that takes away from the book. I'm gonna go into the writing a little bit later because I know you guys are here for the characters and what actually happens between them. The main character is called Scheherazade, and she is basically the super badass it girl. She's very outspoken, she's skilled in archery, but at the same time she retains her femininity, and she's I don't know, just the perfect image of an it girl. She's very charismatic, vivacious, charming. She almost casts a spell upon the people, especially the men around her, without really realizing it. She's that type of girl, In general, she is pretty likable. She hasn't done anything too extensively wrong in the book that would make you hate her. I think her character could definitely be developed a little bit better, but overall she was decently likable, and if anything, kind of someone that you would aspire to be. Like I said, the it girl vibes that she gives off. By the way, I brought my mittens, and it might snow tomorrow, so I know these look like bear paws, but just bear with me. I do not want to freeze my hands off tonight. Now, on the flip side of that, the male main character, her love interest, one of her love interests, is the polar opposite of that. He is not charismatic whatsoever. He has a very dry personality. I guess that does open him up for a good amount of character growth, a nice character arc maybe down the line, but he's basically the opposite of her. Opposites attract, do they not? Now, this book also has a love triangle, so there's another guy from Scheherazade's past life, before she met the new guy. Oh, by the way, the new guy is the Caliph, or the King of Khorasan, and this guy, who's the king, is called Khalid, and he's a boy king, so he's 18 years old, and he's had basically a really traumatic past, and that has contributed to his pretty reserved personality, and the author does give a lot of supporting evidence for that, just a lot of stuff that happened happened in his childhood, it makes sense for him to be the way that he is. The second guy is a nobleman. The ancient Persian word she uses is an emir, which is like lower than the caliph or the king in terms of rank, but he's still like a nobleman and well respected across all fronts. This is her childhood first love, so this love triangle was pretty well defined. You know, love triangles are just, they add a lot of drama, but I think this one was done better than other books. Both of them are pretty good contenders. She does give like a reasonable argument for both of them, so it is a bit of a tough decision. This guy's name is Thadik, and they share a lot of memories together from a young age. They used to have all sorts of adventures together when they were younger. He taught her how to shoot a bow and arrow, and that's why she became really skilled at archery. The author will give you a lot of reasons to root for Thadik, but she also develops the chemistry between Khalid and Shahrazad a lot. In terms of the genre, this book is definitely romance, but it's also, I'd say, surrealism, because like the author, and this is what I was talking about, her writing being so beautiful, the way she describes the story, she knows everything. Like, I don't know how she knows everything about the food, about architecture, clothing, jewelry, and makeup. And from the men's perspective, weapons, the book is just rich with detail. She describes things in so much detail that you feel like you are over there. So that's what makes it feel super realistic. But on the other side, the cool part is that she also includes magic in it, and she doesn't do this immediately. Like, for the first half of the book, in fact probably even more of that, you'd think that this is like a normal book of just like normal non-magical characters, but then she starts to kind of bring in like Arabian legend stuff. It's like black magic, so it's not like magic like this is stuff that you do. I mean, I've heard of black magic in real life, you know, of people practicing it, but it does, like, it's kind of like surrealist, where she paints this really real vivid picture of something that you could picture yourself, of a world that you could imagine yourself being in, but at the same time there is magic and some pretty like supernatural things going on. Another good thing about the characters is that she doesn't leave the side characters out. You'll find yourself getting to know the other characters as well. Everyone from Shahrazad's handmaiden, Despina, the king's cousin, that is like the captain of the guard, I think, Jalal. There's people that you, if they died in the book, like, you'd care. You do get insight into all of the characters, so that's really great, and I think it sets up the part 2 of this book really well. Khalid, Shahrazad, and Thadik are not the only ones that have chemistry and some drama going on. There are also relationships between the characters I just mentioned. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to mention that too specifically. I've talked a lot about why this book is so good. Let's talk about some of the criticism. So one of the main criticisms I heard is that apparently Khalid R-word Shahrazad, which I'm very confused about. If someone knows why people are saying this, please let me know. This is my second time reading this book. It's fresh in my head, and I did not come across any such part in the book. The first night when they marry and Shahrazad comes to his palace, he does not ask to get with her. He visits her, but he doesn't like expect anything from her, and he actually says this, like, I don't expect anything from you. It is Shahrazad who tempts him, and then, like, you know. Also, by the way, just a note on that, even though there is stuff like this, the author does not go into detail in any of these scenes, which is great, you know, because we don't need that extra information. That's the whole point of this video. Like, there is a little bit of spice, I would say. I read this in middle school, and it's significantly more appropriate than something like Colleen Hoover's books, like Verity, for example, so don't worry about that. This book is very dark. The Caliph of Khorasan, Khalid, he kills his brides. To be exact, he was pretty much aiming to kill 100 women because of something that happened, which is a spoiler. So there's a reason behind why he's doing it, but basically he's known as this vicious murderer boy king. And when Shahrazad and Khalid meet, Shahrazad wants to kill him because they are enemies, because he killed her best friend. One of those girls that was sacrificed was her best friend. And so Shahrazad offered herself up as tribute, kind of like Katniss, the Hunger Games vibes, for these marriages. Basically, whenever a girl is married off to this guy, it's like a death sentence, and then she is executed the following dawn. So pretty dark. Then Shahrazad does volunteer herself up as tribute, not because she has a death wish, but because she wants to get revenge, and she's actually aiming to seek vengeance when she goes to his palace first thing. Then the love story develops from there, and he obviously ends up not executing her the following dawn. She also seems to be falling head over heels for this guy, like, pretty much immediately, which is one of my criticisms. It's like, why is this happening so fast? Especially given the fact that he murdered her best friend. One would think that her anger would overpower her other feelings for this guy, but cool thing about the authors, like, she took this really dark concept and she somehow made it less dark, and she also gave him redeeming qualities in a way. I mean, obviously I'm not justifying any of that, nobody is, not even the author, not even the characters themselves, but she does spin it so that there's like light at the end of the tunnel. That's why I'm really excited to read part 2. I haven't read it yet. I think it's definitely setting up for a good story and a good character arc for Khalid, at least. I'm not sure about Shahrazad because her character definitely can be developed a little bit more. She's more than just the pretty vivacious girl that gets all the guys. So given that the love triangle is the biggest, most drama-filled part of the book, I would say, as much as I do see chemistry between her and Khalid, I feel like she belongs with Tariq. He's literally perfect for her. He doesn't have the blood of almost 100 girls on his conscience. He was the first one that saw the value in Shahrazad. They met when they were really young. Their parents know each other, and they also just grew up together. So I would hope to see Shahrazad and Tariq get together in the next book. I'm gonna give both of these books 5 stars. That's already a given. The fact that the author didn't have to go overboard with the spice in order to create a really compelling story. It's possible for you authors out there. Up next is Love from A to Z. So I'm sure you've come across this book at least once on the internet at some point, if you're Muslim, if you're South Asian. Unfortunately, the books that have like the Muslim or South Asian perspective, but they also have the Western perspective, because for those of us that kind of grew up in the West but still retain aspects of our other cultures and our religion, there aren't that many books out there like this, so I would say this is popular, but like I haven't seen it on Book Talk in a hot minute. By the way, if you are not Muslim, this book is still a really good read, and I would highly recommend it if you like romance but don't want spice. So obviously the first thing is that it's really nice to have a Muslim love story written by a Muslim. This book covers a lot of amazing topics, not just romance, like it targets a lot of social issues, how she integrated those issues into this while keeping romance as the main subject. When I was reading this book, I seem to find some parallels between The Fault in Our Stars and this, because one of them is sick. I can't remember who was sick in the Fault in Our Stars. Was it the guy or the girl? It's been so long, man. I haven't read that book in years. For a moment, I was really scared that this was going to be a tragedy, but it is not. This book is by S.K. Ali. So the main characters' names are Zainab, which is this girl on the cover, and this guy is Adam. Both are Muslim, except he's a revert. So Adam, should I say Adam or Adam? I'm gonna say Adam, okay? So Adam and his family converted to Islam shortly after his mother's death, and it really helped them cope and find peace. I can't remember his ethnicity, but he's currently living in Doha. He is Asian, I believe East Asian, and he's lived in Canada. This girl, I believe she goes to school in the US, but one of her parents is Pakistani. They are both familiar with multiple cultures. It's very diverse, and I love that because Islam itself is so diverse. Like, there are Muslims around the world. Having a story that connects and brings those cultures together is really beautiful, I think, and it does definitely represent Muslims the way that we should be represented. Zainab is very fiery, talkative. She's very passionate about social justice issues, and she's pretty angry at times, which I found a little bit annoying, but by the end of it, it was all good. This guy is kind of the opposite. He's pretty calm. Similar to Khalid, he's also pretty quiet, but he's like not reserved, if you know what I mean. He's still charming. I think he's just the type of person who like watches his mouth before he speaks, and he's pretty introspective and he thinks like pretty carefully, which I think is a great quality to have. Zainab and Adam kind of balance themselves out in that way. Again, opposites attract, maybe, possibly. Another thing is, if you guys look at the cover, they seem to be in an airport. That's because they do meet in an airport, and then they meet again on the plane, and also life brings them back together while they are on vacation, and they do seem to have a mutual connection, which then allows them to like see each other again and again, giving the author the perfect excuse to turn this into a love story. He just started college and she is a senior in high school. I was reading this right after I graduated high school, so when I read books about characters that are the same age as me, it just hits different. This book itself was super relatable. Like, oh my goodness, so many different parts. I don't know if it's because I'm Muslim or because I'm South Asian and Pakistani. I think there were parts of this book that are just going to be relatable to everyone. Like, for example, when Zainab is left undelivered, ignored by Adam and he doesn't respond to her for a while, the author like shows us how she's overthinking and she's replaying the conversation again and again in her head, and how she doesn't want to be left at the mercy of a guy's whims. It's like that feeling of dread when someone you care about is kind of acting weird or different and you can't really pinpoint why. Another cute little relatable detail was when Adam is talking about a memory he shared with his mom before she passed away when they were making french fries together, and how he would love her mom's fries more than like the store-bought ones. My mother is a really good cook, and so I would always prefer her fries over the store-bought ones just because of the shape and how like she goes into so much detail, even describing like the shape of the fries and how they're more crispy and like not the little sticks that you find in McDonald's, for example. Just like little details like that. Also, something I forgot to mention is this dude is a huge TikToker. I knew I recognized him from somewhere, but I couldn't pinpoint it exactly, so I searched up the cover details. Both of them are pretty famous, really well known. I think she has like 450k on Instagram. He has a couple million followers, I think. I love that she got like people with really good social influence. But that's why I'm also kind of surprised at the same time, like if these people are really well known, so like why don't I hear about this book more often? The cover is what really drew me in. I saw this book years and years ago and I finally got to reading it this year. A very highly anticipated read, and it definitely delivered on its part. In terms of the chemistry, there's definitely chemistry there, but there's like a slow build up, you know, and that's the cool thing with spice. It does like kind of, when there's like no spice, it leaves you wanting more, I guess, just a little bit more, but that's like the fun part. Like the way that she's written it, you're always like craving more moments of them together. She's written it well enough that, you know, you're totally gonna end up shipping them by the end of the book. So if you're someone who doesn't want to be reading corn or like really aggressive spice, but you still want a good love story, a good romance novel, then this is definitely for you. And if you are Muslim or South Asian or a person of color, you are going to feel so heard by this book. She understands us, you know, the author herself is brown, and we need more books like this. If any of you want to write a book like this, sign me up. Similar to how The Wrath in the Dawn was rich with like the Persian culture, this book is definitely more modern, and it's rich with like issues that we need to touch on in today's world, you know? This book combats Islamophobia, prejudice, disease, family relationships, and like the complications of all of that, teenager problems, feeling jealous when someone gets close to your best friend or your SO. It's super relatable, whether you're Muslim or not, just like to the human experience. And it's a romance. One of the most perfect books like I've read, a solid 5. I did get this from the library, but I will be buying my own copy once I begin to build my own little library. Now I know you're probably looking for more non-spice book reads, but that are still good enough for you to actually want to read. So I have a book review coming up where I'm going to be talking about this book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. It's not a romance. It's kind of hard to find books that are like romance that don't have that level of spice. While this is not explicitly a romance novel, it has like a romance subplot, and I read a ton of books like that. Like that's definitely my main favorite thing to read, when there's like action or something like the main story going on, but then on the side there's also like a romance kind of weaved in. I love those types of books, so I definitely have recommendations like that. That book will be out sometime next week, so stay tuned for that. Now if you did like these books and you are interested in something that has a little bit of romance in it, at least not something that goes overboard, then I would also recommend you read The Inheritance Games, because there is definitely a subplot in this that revolves around a love triangle, actually. And there are some moments that I think you would definitely enjoy alongside the main story. This one I actually already covered in a review. I'll link that over here or at the end of this video. In that video, we put Book Talk to the test to see if it could actually be trusted, and I read Book Talk's most popular books. While I love recommending books, I value your time, and I understand that I don't want to make everything about fun and entertainment. I also want you guys to get something out of these videos, so I do create productivity and wellness based self-improvement type of videos to kind of help you get motivated, especially with 2024 just about to come. So I have a wellness podcast linked down below. Make sure to add me on Instagram and TikTok. I'm very active on Instagram stories, and always feel free to send me a DM if you ever need anything. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next vlog, which is going to be a productivity, self-improvement, 5 a.m. morning routine.